And welcome back. Legislation introduced that would punish the New York Police Department for its controversial surveillance of Muslim Americans. New Jersey Representative Rush Holt introduced this legislation, and now it has several Democrats under fire.
These Muslim communities were mapped, infiltrated, and surveilled simply because they were Muslim. Profiling is wrong. Profiling on the basis of race, ethnicity, and religion is a violation of core constitutional principles.
The budget amendment was rejected pretty much in a party-line vote, and now two New York Republicans, Representatives Peter King and Bob Turner, they are demanding an apology. They want an apology for all this criticism against the NYPD, and I want to welcome Congressman King here this morning. Congressman, nice to see you. Can we just be specific? You want this apology. What specifically do you want?
Well, first of all, the NYPD is the most effective counterterrorism force in the country. There's 1,000 police working day and night fighting Islamic terrorism and the threats against New York, and they've stopped 13 plots against New York City. To have anyone on the floor of the House of Representatives introduce legislation which accuses the NYPD of unconstitutional or illegal behavior is absolutely wrong. And the fact that the entire Democratic leadership of the United States Congress voted for that, voted against the NYPD, and voted for this reckless amendment, to me, they owe the NYPD an apology. You know, all these politicians come to New York, they want their picture taken with Ray Kelly, they say how good the NYPD is doing. Then when the money's on the line, they vote against the NYPD.
Well, obviously Ray Kelly agrees with you, as does Mayor Bloomberg, but I do want to get this in. This is what Representative Holt said just yesterday. This is part of his statement. Quote, "History has demonstrated that profiling is an ineffective tactic that generates resentment rather than cooperation in targeted communities." And I just want to point to something else. Representative Keith Ellison, obviously, is the first Muslim elected to Congress. He testified on the House floor last month about specifically this surveillance, these surveillance tactics, specifically of college students. Take a listen.
I was very proud when my son was elected president of the Muslim Student Association at his college, but I wonder, was my 18-year-old son subject to surveillance like the kids were at Yale, Columbia, and Penn? He's a good kid, has never done anything wrong, and I worry to think that he might be in somebody's files simply because he wanted to be active on campus.
Simply because he wanted to be active on campus, he's concerned about his own 18-year-old. Can you understand that concern, understand that perspective, Congressman?
No, absolutely not. First of all, Keith Ellison, I get along with Keith Ellison. He's a very active spokesman for the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is named as a co-conspirator in the largest terrorist financing case in this country. Secondly, it's not just me defending Ray Kelly. It's the president's own Homeland Security advisor, John Brennan. It's the director of the FBI, Bob Mueller. It's the director of the CIA, General Petraeus. The fact is, there was not one constitutional or legal violation that anyone has accused the NYPD of. What Keith Ellison is talking about with the Muslim Student Association, that and other groups, when there's any instance at all or any evidence at all that there could be an infiltration, there could be somebody in those ranks who was working against the United States, then the NYPD has an absolute obligation to look at those groups. Absolutely. This is all open surveillance. This is the type of thing which is good police work. And I said this before, when the Justice Department was going after the mafia, they went to Italian social clubs. When they were going after the Westies, the Irish gang, they went into Irish bars on the west side of Manhattan. I mean, this is just common sense police work. It's entirely legal, and we're caving into political correctness, and that's why I'm saying the Democratic leadership in Congress should apologize to the NYPD for all those people who are alive, all those people who are alive in New York today because of the NYPD.
I want to bring Ryan in.
Representative King, just a couple of things. One, what's your position on profiling in general? Do you have any problem with it? And two, you're saying that the NYPD, your problem with what happened in the House is that the NYPD was criticized. I mean, is your position that the NYPD is completely above criticism and that they simply can do no wrong? I mean, it seems to me that the media has brought some pretty legitimate issues up and that it's not quite right to defend the NYPD just unilaterally. It sounds like which is what you're doing. So just could you respond to that?
First of all, there is no profiling, and that's the absolute nonsense that people like you and others are propagating. There is no
propagating
profiling.
anything. I'm just telling you there's been some very legitimate questions raised about what the NYPD is doing.
Okay, no, I'm telling you there is no profiling. So I want you to take that back. There is no profiling. You have no evidence of profiling at all. They use terms like profiling, spying, casually and cavalierly, and you don't know what you're talking about. Now, what I'm saying is obviously legitimate criticism of any group, including the media, is very warranted. But to have this broad-based attack, accusing of profiling, racism, bigotry, is absolutely wrong.
Those
and that's where the apology is due. That's the irresponsible conduct. Well, you're passing it on as if it's legitimate.
So I'm just saying that the media has raised some legitimate issues about profiling. That's all I'm saying. You're the one that...
They're not legitimate. They are not legitimate. And I'm saying they're not legitimate.
And
they're illegitimate. They're irresponsible charges to make.
Is calling for this apology, but no, you bring up very valid points, Ryan Lizza. You bring up very valid points. Congressman King, I do want to...
They're not valid points. They are not valid points.
We're going to agree to disagree here.
They're not valid.
Let me ask you about this, Congressman.
He can say whatever he wants. He's wrong.
There you go. Let me ask you about what's happened recently in Afghanistan. This former member of the Taliban now trying to help with this peace process. He was shot and killed in the middle of traffic. The Taliban absolutely not denying responsibility. But just bigger picture here, sir, what does that say about a peace process they're trying to forge?
Yeah, it shows how difficult it is to deal with the Taliban. Obviously, there can be elements of the Taliban that we can try to deal with, but it shows that the hardcore and the leadership of the Taliban does not want a peaceful agreement, which I think then makes it more difficult when the president says we are going to leave by a certain date, withdraw our troops by a certain date, and that only encourages the more radical elements in the Taliban not to cooperate and not to seek peace. So, no, this is a very bad sign, and it's unfortunate because here was a person who was trying to do the right thing, and he was, in effect, killed by his own people.
And finally, Congressman, we heard about this, and I just thought I have to ask you about this, that the prostitute, the Colombian prostitute at the center of this whole Secret Service scandal, I hear you laugh, so I'm going to ask. Her name is Dania Lodano Suarez. I hear, sir, she wants to meet with you in your office. I hear you said no. Do you have any idea why she wants to meet you, Congressman?
Well, first of all, Brooke, there's women all over the world want to meet with me.
I mean, that's what I hear. I'm just asking about just this one.
It's something I'm trying to fight off. No, I guess because I'm chairman of the Homeland Security Committee.
Let the man answer.
Okay.
30 seconds, Congressman.
I assume... Yeah, actually, I'm chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. We are doing an investigation of the Secret Service, and her lawyer claims that she has information to give me. The fact is it would be a publicity stunt because we've checked everything out. She's been saying, both publicly and privately, she has nothing to offer at all. There's been enough cheap publicity over this entire incident, so I'm not going to give her another forum. But again, this is something I've had to come to terms with my entire life. Beautiful women trying to attract me.
I mean, I'm sure your wife is saying, honey, ixnay on this happening in your office, please. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
My wife is saying she's saying I'm delusional.
Delusional. And we'll leave it there. Congressman King, thank you. A pleasure. Love that we got a laugh out of you on an early Monday morning. And great questions, by the way, guys. Still ahead.